Good morning and welcome to SJU. It's a beautiful week. Roth Cornett has taken Dan Merle to go do spy stuff. They'll be back later in the day for charting. I am left wrangling this group. My name's Joe Starr. I'm your host with Billy Business.
Yo.
Hey, and Spencer J. Gilbert. And joining us, Amy Cassandra Martinez. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome back from Movie Fights.
Thank you.
Talking about a lot of things today. We're talking about Margot Kidder. We're talking about Doctor Strange taking a stance on equal pay. But first, we're going to talk about Miss Marvel coming to the MCU. We already knew Captain Marvel was coming to the MCU. This is a non-ranked female Marvel character. She just goes by Miss. Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige says the studio has plans for a Miss Marvel movie after Captain Marvel has been introduced to the world. Miss Marvel, another character in the comics, is the Muslim hero who is inspired by Captain Marvel, is definitely sort of. That's a very.
I just walked sort of.
I love how Kevin Feige says so much and then also says nothing. Is definitely sort of in the works, he told BBC. We have plans for that once we've introduced Captain Marvel to the world, he added. Captain Marvel is Carol Danvers, who went as Miss Marvel for ages and ages and ages and ages until she got her due and they took her. She used to just wear like a black one-piece bathing suit, and they finally gave her a rank and clothes, which is what the new costume and movie are based on. Kamala Khan, who is Miss Marvel, is a 16-year-old Pakistani-American from New Jersey. She became Marvel Comics' first Muslim character to headline her own comic book. So this is really cool. Amy, this is, I think, one of the first comics you started reading.
Yes. So even just a few months ago, I wasn't a big or an avid comic book reader, and Miss Marvel was actually the first comic that I picked up, and I was like, what's this?
Why that one?
What? That's a good question. I think it just looked pretty.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's how you get into it, yeah.
Well, and I saw Marvel, and I was like, hi, what's up? Yeah, and I haven't, really kept reading it, but it's just something that I think we all need right now. And I'm so excited that this is going to be out there for everyone to enjoy. And as well, it's a 16-year-old Pakistani-American girl. Like, that's I think, who we would like to, start appealing to. Younger kids that are kind of, looking for something that's different. We have Spider-Man Homecoming, which was awesome, but to add more diversity, I think is fantastic. And she's relatable, she's honest, she tells it like it is, but she's also very inspirational. Like a lot of panels, you could even just blow up and put posters in your place. I suggest you guys do that. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, but it's really awesome, and I'm so freaking pumped. I was one of the first people that I found out about it, and I was geeking out. I'm like, who can I turn to? Because not a lot of people know about her. So I think it's great that we're going to get to know about her after Captain Marvel. I'm just like, yeah, women. Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, what's interesting about Miss Marvel in the comics right now is, like, they've allowed other characters like Peter Parker. He was kind of like your intro to, like, he was the teenager's eyes of the the comic books for so long. I'm very unprofessionally chewing gum, and I just realized it right now. But also...
horrible, Billy.
But they allowed him to grow up. They allowed him to go to college, and now he's kind of like CEO of his own company. So you kind of lost that character in the Marvel comics who had the teenage perspective. But what's interesting is that in the MCU, we still have teenager Peter Parker. I kind of want to see them team up at a certain point.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool. What I like about Kamala Khan in the comics too is Peter was also always your underdog, the sort of kid who had no business being here but sort of doing their best anyway. And I feel like Marvel keeps trying to reflect the real world, and I feel like a Peter Parker would no longer be the underdog in the real world. He would be probably a super popular kid with his own YouTube channel, talking about his adventures in front of a stack of Blu-rays. And so I think
Peter Parker movie things.
Peter Parker movie things, which should totally be I'd watch it. 100% be a thing. So her origin, which could be a weird thing to try to get into with the MCU now. In the comics, New Jersey got blanketed in the Terrigen Mists, which is what gave the Inhumans their powers. Kamala saw an unusual vision of her three favorite superheroes, Captain America, Iron Man, and Captain Marvel. They asked her what she wanted from life, and she basically said she wants to be a hero like Captain Marvel. who she described as beautiful and awesome and butt-kicking and less complicated. So when the vision ended and she emerged from the Terrigen Mist, she got powers. She had literally sort of transformed into a younger version of Carol Danvers in her old costume, but a 16-year-old girl appropriate, not just a weird one piece. They gave her pants, which, very progressive.
You can do more in pants.
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. You can fight more people in pants. It's nice. So she's like an omnimorph, I guess. Like she can grow, she can stretch, she can shrink, she can contort her body. She's sort of a Reed Richards-esque. People are gonna slay me in the comments. I'm doing a horrible job describing her powers. But she can sort of contort like Plastic Man and stuff like that, and she's really, really fun. Spencer, are you excited about seeing how they stumble through the Inhumans when they have to do her origin?
Good lord, the Inhumans was bad. So I imagine that they won't go with the Magic Miss thing again, and that they'll take a more grounded approach to this. But look, I don't know. I haven't read the comics. I haven't even seen Captain Marvel yet, and Kevin Feige saying maybe someday in some hypothetical timeline this will be a thing. So like maybe I'm like curbing my enthusiasm a little bit just because this all seems like so many phases down the road
Sure.
for us. You've sold me on the comic. It sounds super weird. I can't imagine that being on screen of like, they appear to her in a mist and they're like, who do you answer me these questions 3 and you can be one of us? Like, what?
Yeah.
But okay. All right. That's makes as much sense as any other superhero origin story.
Accurate.
So, you know what? I am as excited for this as I'm excited for anything 6 years from now, which is like, I don't know. Ask me again when we
I
get
don't know.
there.
I see this one coming quicker than maybe people think. I think it's, off the heels of Black Panther, showing that if you cater to an audience who is underrepresented, they are going to come out in droves. Add on top of that, I think, with Wonder Woman and what I can only imagine is going to happen for Captain Marvel is just like seeing an empowering woman hero on the screen. I think they're going to fast track this one. And with Phase 4 kind of just, up in the air right now, we don't know who's coming back, who's not coming back. I could totally see that this one and maybe like Nova being two that they're like, those are two that kind of, we've already sort of established the world. It's not as hard or, we don't have to start from scratch. I think this might be one of the first ones they announce after we see Avengers 4.
Mm-hmm. So as a new fan of the character, like Billy said, this kind of fast tracks the movie most likely.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a title that gets you excited, or would you rather see like other characters move in first, or fast track somebody like Miss Marvel?
The second one. Fast track, Miss Marvel. I mean, when you have a name like Miss Marvel, even if you don't know her, you're like, Marvel, well, I can connect the dots. And I think, even you were talking about, getting Spider-Man involved, even Shuri. Like, the opportunities are just out there. And I think that it would really, like I said earlier, bring a younger audience that wants diversity. And I think we're all craving that right now. So I would agree that they would speed it up a little, especially with the success of Black Panther. And then, of course, seeing how successful Captain Marvel is. But I think even now we're all kind of like, let's go. I mean, we're about 300 days away. Not like anyone's counting. But I want it.
Amy checks her watch. She has a countdown app.
I do wonder how
do.
a marketing team distinguishes, like, for the average Joe out there, the difference between a Captain Marvel and a Miss Marvel. I feel like that's going to be a little hard to market. But then again, I'm sure when they were thrown Guardians of the Galaxy 1 they're like, here's a tree and a raccoon and some stuff.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Figure out how to sell this.
The kids are going to be the most excited about these movies, and by kids I mean mid-20s to mid-30s people talking about it on camera. I think kids will get, like, parents will be like, we just took you to see Captain Marvel, and they're like, no, that was Captain Marvel. Dad, this is Miss Marvel. You're embarrassing me. But I agree with you on Shuri and then Spider-Man and them interacting, because then you could potentially do a Champions movie, which is younger heroes that feel like the Avengers aren't quite handling business the way they should, or looking at we pick on the Avengers for large-scale property damage and stuff a lot in honest trailers. And the Champions sort of look at smaller problems and almost cleanup problems, where it's like, cool, you kept that island from crashing back into the earth, but now like those neighborhoods are completely screwed, and what can we kind of do to go in and help?
Oh boy.
Yeah, very exciting.
Local politics.
The movie, but with superpowers, Spencer.
Are they like the Teen Titans of Marvel, or?
Yeah. I'll call them the Teen
like
Titans
more
of Marvel.
municipal.
But more municipal, yeah. They really, they're really making sure that that lady can put a freestanding mailbox up in her neighborhood if she wants to, I guess.
Champions.
That's the pitch. Oh, we just sold that movie so hard.
I would actually watch that movie if it was just like a straight satire. That sounds hilarious.
I'd watch it. I'd totally watch it. Yeah, especially just
A super homeowners association.
yeah, I'd definitely watch that. Also, just Shuri like inventing wasteful inventions to do like really simple things. Like I made this virtual reality vibranium system, and you're like, or you could have just put something in the mail, written to a senator. I'm just gonna straight up McLaughlin group transition this. Story number 2. Woo. Doctor Strange takes a stance on equal pay. Benedict Cumberbatch has come forward to give his stance on a pressing issue facing Hollywood and beyond: pay equality. In a recent interview with Radio Times Magazine, Cumberbatch said, "Equal pay and a place at the table are the central tenets of feminism." The Infinity War actor added, "Look at your quotas, ask what women are being paid, and say if she's not paid the same as the men, I'm not going to do it." So basically, he has said, moving forward in his projects, if his co-stars are not receiving equal pay, he's not going to do the project. So obviously this is very cool. I think that's sort of being a very, very visible ally, which is awesome. I'm not sure. I still don't know how this works necessarily. You know, like we were talking about this earlier. Obviously, in Doctor Strange, him and Tilda pretty much equal screen time. That'd be an equal pay situation. Rachel McAdams, a lot less screen time. Would she get like she would get the rate that like Benedict Cumberbatch would get if he had a role at that level?
Yeah, I mean the pay isn't based on screen. My understanding is the pay isn't based on screen time. It's based on their quote. It's based on what they've been paid in the past.
Right.
So I think a lot of the problem with narrowing the pay gap is like women just don't get the same opportunities to star in films and to build up that filmography that raises their quote over time, because then every single actor in a movie is negotiating as an individual. Like it's just their agent and the movie working out what they're getting paid. So to include it to the whole cast, and Benedict is like, I will be getting equal pay with whatever main cast women are in the film. That's like a different structure of casting and deal making than has been done in the past. So yeah, I mean obviously there's a lot of details to work out, and the devil's in the details. Sure. But it's a big change from just kind of everyone for themselves.
I just kind of wonder, like, how ironclad and locked in are these MCU deals that they signed, like, straight off the bat. Like, we know Robert Downey Jr. obviously has the room to maneuver because his contract wasn't as lengthy as the ones that they had started having people do after that fact. But by the time Doctor Strange rolled around and he signed on the dotted line, like, does he have, like, wiggle room? And how do you even negotiate something like that for something like an Infinity War, where there's just so many characters of who's your co-star at that point? I don't even know how you would kind of
everybody's sort of been framing this as, what could this mean for the MCU? Because that's sort of his biggest thing aside from Sherlock. But I don't know necessarily how much room he has in his contract, but just in terms of Amy, someone with a name at this level sort of making this statement and sort of taking this stand, sort of what does that mean? How do you think that sort of changes the game?
I think it really raises awareness that, hey, we talked about this a while ago. We're still here. We didn't forget. And for him, a person of his caliber, especially now after Infinity War, for him to stand up and say that really speaks volumes. Whether it'll happen, who knows? But just to have someone step forward and say that, in addition to other people that have, but let's continue, that conversation and not forget about it. But also, MCU is freaking complicated, but it opens that conversation to be like, okay, so yes, maybe it's not about the screen time, but we do need to be paid more, you know, speaking as like a woman or whatever, in those movies. But I mean, there's so many tricky things that we don't know that happen, you know, behind the scenes, contracts. I really have no idea, but it's more about raising awareness, making sure it's still going on and we're still moving forward and not forgetting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then I think that it's just kind of a giant loop. You know, if we give women these opportunities, then people will value women more in these roles like Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, and then you're raising the stakes. And it's like, yes, this woman can take care of a whole movie. She should be paid just as much.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, it's a loop, and you can. I don't want to say it's too late if you're already trying to address this at the casting point, but like it can really help if you're writing scripts with female parts and you're greenlighting projects that are led by women. That is almost more meaningful and will get the ball rolling more so than like, well, this movie's already going. What women can we cast and how much can we pay them?
Exactly.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I watched this interview. Dave Letterman he has that whole series on Netflix.
Needs no introduction.
Yeah. Yes, and he was talking with Tina Fey, and she said, back when she started on SNL, it wasn't on purpose. It wasn't like, no women. It was just kind of like, never thought of that. So just being open to that and even having representation, in the writer's room, in the editing rooms, to have a voice for the women to be, a voice for them to speak up for them and say, hey, this is only for this kind of person. Mm-hmm. It needs to be a woman, and even, heck, a minority. And that really opens up the communication with everyone and just making sure that everyone's being heard.
Yeah.
It's just,
well, even if it doesn't have an effect for people, on contract now, that's a ripple that, in the future for, say a Miss Marvel, if someone like Benedict Cumberbatch can sort of almost use themselves as a bargaining chip and just say, we need to make sure that the actors in this movie are taken care of the same way you've taken care of me, the same way you've taken care of Paul Rudd is a pretty cool and very classy move to make.
I just wonder now, like tangentially, how locked in are these guys to these contracts? Like, if you sign a 10-picture deal, like after 4, like, can they really do anything to you if you're just like, I don't want to do this anymore?
Yeah, I mean, who knows how many clauses there are and stuff like that. And yes, whatever's on the page, there's also the aspect of like PR and like wanting to make your stars happy and accommodate them and not have you look like the asshole who's like, no, we're not going to give equal pay. No, it's on the dotted line. Like it's at the end of the day, these are agreements between people and lawyers are in their separate non-person camp, but those people can get their lawyers to resolve things.
Sure, but you hear like, remember the Italian Job, and Ed Norton was famously like, they made me do this movie. I was under a contract, and this was like the last Paramount movie that I had to make. Didn't want to be in it. So it's like, it must happen sometimes where there must be some consequence, probably financially, that's just like not worth it to not do it. I just wonder about these Marvel ones, like, I wonder if there's anyone that's just like, God, I hate this, but I'm 3 into 12,
Well, I mean, Evans has been pretty vocal about getting out, and it keeps not happening. But I mean, he was pretty vocal about that after First Avenger, that he just wanted to do a couple more of these and then just
but then the movies got better, and I think he changed his tune of like, well, if they're this good,
True.
Yeah, maybe I don't know, this is kind of fun.
And I think there's a difference, I guess, between, Norton being like, I'm being forced to do this movie and say, like, if Lupita comes back for Black Panther 2 and is like, everybody's salaries went except for mine. I definitely don't think, especially in an age where everyone gets to be a little more vocal and everything's a little more opened up online, I don't think the studio goes, shut up, Lupita. You've got five more pictures before we can renegotiate you.
Yeah, or they do something like, okay, well, we already signed up for Black Panther 2, but like, we'll make your passion project, or like, we'll pay you a lot to go be in something else, or something like. They want their stars to be happy, I'm sure. And there haven't been any, aside from, I guess, Edward Norton, like too many vocally anti-Marvel defectors from this whole cast. Like Natalie Portman is like, yeah, I'm not interested, but even she's open to like showing back up.
Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard, you're
Terrence
right.
Howard might be the only one. Terrence
Well, I mean,
and Ed.
that was exactly, I think, was the problem, was that he had signed his contract, and then Iron Man did gangbusters, and then they kind of were like, no, this is the rate we agreed on for Iron Man 2. He's like, wait a second. That's my understanding, but I know there's two very passionate sides of that story.
Well, I think a lot has changed even since then. With Frances McDormand's speech, Oscar speech, she was basically saying, put that in your writer. So moving forward, yes, but I think if everyone now stands up and says, no, we're not doing this, if you don't make everyone's pay the same, what are the studios going to do? Oh, no, that's fine. We won't make Black Panther. No, you're going to make it, and you're going to, switch things up because you have to. And it's just standing together, which I don't think happened before.
Yeah, and really, stepping up some of those salary deals, whether it's a back end deal or a merchandise percentage, like that's pennies, really. I mean, they can definitely do it. With Howard, I don't know how much of it was the pay and how much of it was like they just straight up like didn't want to work with the guy.
Well, he wanted the
know.
contract to be in his own version of math that he made up in his
Yes. Which, if you haven't read about Terrence Howard's math, it's fascinating.
He doesn't believe in math.
You know what? It's like 1 + 1 doesn't
Equals 3, dude.
equals 3
Yeah.
or something. Yeah, I can't remember what it was exactly. I think it was in Rolling Stone. It's fascinating.
Well, now I need to Google Terrence Howard math.
Yeah.
That sounds like how I reconcile my budgets here every week. And now I'm concerned.
Which is a whole nother video we could do where it's how much money do you have to be worth to justify how much of a pain in the ass you are on set, which is probably an entirely other thing we could
It's
talk
the Edward
about.
Norton quotient.
Yeah, exactly. So that might be coming soon to a Screen Junkies weekend video. Story number 3, people confirmed over the weekend Margot Kidder passed away on Sunday at her home in Livingston, Montana. She was 69. It's very sad right now. Her cause of death is unknown, but this is sad news. Kidder began acting in the late 60s. Obviously, she's best known as Lois Lane in Superman the movie, opposite Christopher Reeve. She reprised that part in the movie's 3 sequels. She was also in Amityville Horror. She was also in Black Christmas. She was also Eliza Doolittle in an adaptation of Pygmalion with Peter O'Toole, which you should definitely check out. She was known in the later half of her life for a lot of social and political work. She was also, unfortunately, also known for a lot of her mental health issues, and she had a long battle with stuff like that.
She was very open about it. And she spoke about it, and I kind of feel like she was, not the first, but she was one of the, kind of like the first kind of stars from my childhood or in my kind of wheelhouse that I knew that was like starting to openly talk about like kind of mental health and what had gone on with her, and it wasn't like this big crazy secret. Like she wanted people to know like this is real, people deal with it, it doesn't matter who you are, that can happen to you. But yeah, this is the first Lois Lane that I ever knew, and kind of in my head, the Lois, that every other Lois that came after her was compared to.
Yeah, absolutely. Amy, you were talking a little bit about how she was sort of your window into DC movies.
Yeah, I grew up learning about her, and when I finally saw Superman, that's when it just hit me, and I was like, oh, this is DC. I think I had been exposed to Marvel before, so I'm more of a Marvel fan. I know more about Marvel, but the way that Christopher Reeve and her together just worked so well that it didn't need to be this whole big thing. It was just authentic, and it was sweet, and it was beautiful. I think she did a fantastic job. Unfortunately, like she had a really tough life after that. But what's beautiful about people that are in this industry is they make it. They make their craft, they go to a movie, like they do that, and it's out there in the universe, and we get to see it as many times as we want. So yeah, I mean, I definitely will be watching Superman soon, just because it was so beautiful.
Yeah, and their chemistry is really great in that movie. He's so just sort of sweet and dopey, and she's just kind of like a whip, and it just works together really, really, really well. This is another thing I'm hoping is sort of a byproduct of Me Too, because one of the things that's been talked a lot about, along with me too, is just general treatment of people on sets. We talked about this a little bit with Quentin Tarantino, where, on set he's, not the kindest of directors, which sort of spun us into how Shelley Duvall was treated
on The Shining.
On The Shining.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that I'm hoping sort of comes out of this is making an industry that doesn't just sort of chew people up quite as much as it did. I think there's a cool change now where you already see like Chris Evans talking really loudly about mental health and his anxiety disorder, and stars of that caliber, Ryan Reynolds being really loud about it. So hopefully people who struggled as much as Margot Kidder did in the future, have a lot more help and have a larger support structure, and sort of just being isolated because it's something nobody really wants to talk about.
Well, even The Rock. I mean, recently he came out. I think it was right before Rampage. Yeah, it was. And I think for someone of that caliber, like you said, we see him on Instagram working out. He's having a great time. He's busy. He looks like the happiest guy on, on the face of the planet. But there's a lot that goes on in here, and I think just keeping that conversation open of it's okay to not be okay. That's cool. You're gonna have those days.
Yeah, absolutely. At absolutely any level, which is pretty cool. Yeah, that's kind of our show. It's sort of ending on a downer, which I apologize for. Hopefully, a somewhat.
No, I mean, I think if you have the time today or soon, just go back and at least check out a little bit of that Superman. The scenes, especially with her and Christopher Reeve, like you said, their chemistry was just off the charts. But I also feel like that's the only actress, and I really don't want to start a flame war. I'm really not trying to, but I feel like that's the only Lois Lane so far that has made me believe like she is a pit bull, and she is, and especially paired with that Clark, that Clark is just so much like he can't do anything, and it's like, come on, Clark,
Yeah.
like that great Lois and Clark chemistry, which I don't think anyone has quite hit it as well as they did yet. She was just so great. I believe that she was the aggressive reporter who was going to get that story no matter what.
And no one has sold an annoyed eye roll, meaning actual true love, quite as well. An affectionate annoyed eye roll. That's a hard balance to strike. She kind of nailed it. Guys, there's a lot of things you can watch while you're waiting for charting this afternoon. We've got a Deadpool 2 non-spoiler review coming later today. Again, charting with Dan and Roth. Honest Trailers tomorrow is one you've been waiting for forever. Yeah, it's got claws. Tomorrow's got claws. There'll be Honest Trailer commentary, of course. Lon did a great video over the weekend about a theme sort of connecting all of the MCU movies, which you should definitely check out. I did, and it could have been worse for Avengers Infinity War, where we made a lot of jokes about waffles. You can watch that too if you want. That's our show, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Billy, thanks for being here.
I have to.
Yeah, you absolutely do.
This is where I work.
Spencer, I'll see you in 30 seconds when we sit down in our office. And Amy, thanks for joining us. Where can people find you online?
On all social media at Amy Cassandra MTZ, and just follow me on Instagram. I link everything there. I'm on Twitter as well.
Perfect. Thanks for being here again.
There it is.
Guys, check that lower third. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.